Hey there, I'm Nathan Montgomery, and welcome to hashtag Let's Chat. It's actually season 4. Took a hiatus for a few years from the podcast world here, but we're back, and we've got an exciting guest today. I am so excited to welcome Rachel DeCamp. Rachel is a property manager extraordinaire. She's a realtor on the Space Coast of Florida. She grew up here. She has worked here for years and years and developed her skill and her talents and her abilities. And she just brings so much to the table when it comes to real estate and especially the property management field. So I am so excited to have her on today. We're going to dig in on some leases and what that looks like from the landlord perspective and from the tenant perspective. I'm glad to have you here. And of course, I just want to say, as we go forward, we will have all kinds of people. Rachel will be back again. We'll also have other people from the mortgage business, the insurance business, all those things that affect real estate to help inform and educate you. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nathan Montgomery, as I said at the top. I am a realtor on the Space Coast and a newly minted property manager as well, and I'm super excited to be doing that. I work at RLL Real Estate Group located in Cocoa Village here on the Space Coast. And so I'm just excited to be back in the chair behind the mic and interviewing these amazing people who have just honed their skills and their abilities, and they bring that to you, the public. So let's jump right in with Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Nathan. How are you today?
I'm doing good. So we're going to talk about some leases.
Oh, the most important thing
here in the state of Florida.
Oh my goodness, that is the foundation. That is the most important aspect whenever thinking about renting.
Yes.
It can cause a lot of issues.
Yeah, so I want you to just fire away with your expertise because you are the guru.
Well, thank you. This, again, I tell people this began to be an accidental strength. I think, I enjoyed it at first being a realtor. When the market shifted back in like 2003, we had to do something different.
Yeah.
We had to find a revenue stream, and come to find out you only have to be a licensed agent to rent properties, which over time we've discovered that there's so much more liability renting a property than selling a property.
Yeah.
You have a title company, you have a lot of people that educate us on how we're supposed to do this and what documents, but where did the lease come from?
Right.
Where do we get a good lease?
Yeah.
And people don't understand that Florida is document driven. So if we're document driven, why would you hand your tenant a piece of paper and not a 35-page lease? Isn't that astonishing?
Right, yeah, that is crazy to me.
A 35-page lease?
Well, and before I got into this with you, I've done a couple of leases before and just used the regular lease agreement. It's just a couple of pages. It's very basic and
very basic.
You're turning over a huge asset to somebody.
I can't fathom. It is a artistic thing to be able to write a lease.
Yeah.
So I always say, you don't want your plumber to do your brain surgery, right?
Exactly.
And you want to make sure that you are protecting yourselves. I think people just move into situations and they really don't protect themselves.
Right.
Well, you need a contract, you need writing. So long ago when, I got my license, Florida realtors, they give you great documentation. I don't want to beat up on our industry because they give you really good content.
Yeah.
But our lease that they gave us for individual properties for residential is not as
It's comprehensive as it should be.
It's not comprehensive. There's so many things. Florida law is consistently changing. So you need to get into a relationship with an attorney that's going to help you write it, or you need to find out how to write it correctly. And, I started this years ago and I became close to Harry Heist. He is the god that I believe in attorneys across Florida. And he is a Jersey guy that is very particular, and he'll tell you what needs to happen, but he's also the one that fought for the documents and the verbiage needed for Florida so that owners and agents can be successful. And we're not attorneys. It's kind of like we're, riding this wave and not knowing what's going to happen at the end. And why would you do that? You want to make sure you have a lease. So yes, my lease is 35 pages long because the FAR bar contract that they give realtors may be a couple of pages. But I do want to reflect on a story because I had an owner call me just a couple days ago, and he started out the conversation with, Rachel, I'm so sorry. And I said, oh, no. What did you do? What did you do? And he said, well, I rented a property. I used a FAR bar contract, and I just kind of put some other addendums together and used ChatGPT and all these things. No. And I was literally like, okay, this is not going to end well. And, he had to unfortunately evict his tenant. But when he got to court, there wasn't certain verbiage under the lease that we use that allows owners to obtain reasonable costs, because when you go to suit with a tenant, who's going to pay those legal fees? Who was the person that started this? There's got to be documentation, and in our lease there's a reason why we got it written by one of the attorneys that helped write the Florida Tenant Act. And so I tell people all the time, please don't write it on a napkin. Don't just allow somebody to enter your home without some documentation. Some of the worst things are renting to friends, renting to families.
It's somebody that you're close to, you think it's not going to be a big deal.
Absolutely. Everything's going to be fine, and something happens. So there's a lot of caveats to it, and with the absolute changes, there's so many changes happening here. The lease updates, like for example, vaping. Our leases capture no smoking and vaping, but for the longest time legally, they had to define what vaping was. And so just recently they added it to the lease. So, as we continue to grow and tenants are getting smarter and they're getting to learn their rights, I think it's very important for owners to know their rights and tenants to know their rights. And then they can come together for a solid contract. You're not going to be successful with your tenant relationship. It's going to be very unhealthy. So it's the first and foremost thing that you should do as an owner. Get that lease. And if it's 35 pages, great. But some of the things that are in the leases, I want people to understand that there is about 3 pages of just how to clean. Because Florida is mold haven. So when tenants call me and they're like, hey, I've got mold around my toilet. Well, have you cleaned it? Have you cleaned around your tub? We are mold. So it actually teaches people what Florida's about. And I really am so thankful that I have this documentation. Because since I've been utilizing this documentation, I've never lost an eviction. I've never gotten into a situation where the owner did not overcome, and I value that. So you just have to do your homework first, and don't put leases on a piece of napkin.
Do a good lease.
Do a good lease.
So what are the top maybe top protection that an owner gets and the top protection that a tenant gets from this lease?
Yes. Well, Florida law is driven to tenant rights and landlord rights. So everyone has to be respectful. And when something goes wrong, you need to have a human interaction. You need to talk about it. You need to have something in place to help the tenant. If something's going on with the home, if there's some kind of repair that's being done, the protection for the tenant is that they have a solid itemized outcome and list of what needs to be done during that whole entire relationship. They actually have something that says the landlord is supposed to give them a safe and healthy environment, and then the tenant is supposed to monitor and is supposed to communicate when something goes wrong. And if it's not in writing and you find out that something bad happened to your septic, or there was a flood and you didn't find about it until later on, where is the communication? Where's the protection between both? So solidly, I believe the protections in a good lease are giving the tenant guidelines to respect the property, and the owner's getting respect for how the tenant's going to pay their rent and what the expectations are and what they're responsible for. So please get a good lease. Don't use something online. Find the professionals. The professionals have been through this. I've heard it all. My dog ate my rent. I've heard it all. And so you have to have a strict lease so that you guys have a really mutual respect.
Well, so that everybody's protected. It's not one-sided. It's protecting both parties and their rights and what they can do.
Well, one of the biggest areas that I see that need a little bit more attention is the understanding of what the tenant is responsible for when it comes to repairs. I see in leases all the time, and I shake my head and this scares me, when a a property manager or an owner puts that the tenant is responsible for all repairs 250 below.
Yeah.
Well, where is the actual itemized list on how they're supposed to do those repairs? Because
Exactly.
when you get your property back at the end of the year and there's duct tape everywhere, you haven't given the tenant an actual written plan of how the expectations are fixing. So really, owners need to understand, if the tenant has caused damage, they should be responsible. If it's the owner's responsibility, they should be responsible. Do your job. Get the best, handyman and professionals to diagnose what took place, what happened. And if it's clearly not a tenant responsibility, the owner has to be responsible for it.
Right.
But that insert, oh my gosh, Harry Heist has said so many times, you're opening yourself up for a lot of just litigation, messy communication, and you're not going to be able to, overcome a possible situation. Your tenant's going to get mad, they're going to leave. So you just have to show support, and the tenant has to show care.
Yeah.
So,
all right, so let's talk about this. So we were talking about it before we started recording, but you decide to be a landlord, you're going to rent your house.
Yes.
And your tenant dies.
Oh my goodness. So
what happens in Florida?
This is a very sensitive situation, an area of our industry that I don't like to be involved in. But unfortunately, there's been a few times, and for a property manager to have experience, how to navigate through that really traumatic experience. So I'll go back to a situation that happened when the epidemic came through. A lot of people were home, they weren't working, and one of my young tenants had passed away in his home. And it's an unfortunate situation, but what the balance is and what the foundation is make sure you have an executor of your will. A lot of people don't know that Florida is a probate state, and when a person dies in a rental, we have to close and lock that rental for at least 90 days. Imagine the owner not getting rent. Imagine the financial impact. And so when I sit down with my renters, I have to have that conversation, and I think owners should do that too. Find the great emergency contacts. Find out if they have an executor of the will. People think, oh, I got a will, I'll be okay. No, the will dies with you.
Right.
And so you need to make sure that you have plans for yourself. So when this young man passed away in his home, I was on the phone crying with the mother and saying, listen, I'm so sorry, I can't let you in. I can't give you his driver's license, his social security card, all these things that moms should be able to do and to care for their daughters and their sons and their passing. And she was upset, but we overcame it, because a few days or a few hours later, her attorney called, and her attorney said, Rachel, I commend you. This has got to be the most unfortunate situation, so difficult to navigate. And so he said, thank you, and we'll be in touch in 90 days. So I got the owner's or the mother's name, and I did contact her. And just to kind of get into the caveat of this, if a person dies, you have the right to monitor your unit and to maintain it.
Sure.
So after this young man was removed from the unit, we were able to go in and clean the refrigerator and to preserve his items the best that we could. So when that 90 days was up,
the family could do what they wanted to do.
Exactly. So it's definitely a conversation that people are not talking about, because I think there's so many things from Florida, the way that probate is, the way that rental laws are. You just really need to know your stuff. And like I'm a sponge for information. So I love what I do. It's very complicating sometimes. There's sorrows and trials and tribulations, but I really like the end result by providing housing to tenants, deserving tenants, and helping owners, because these owners, you never know their situation.
Well, and I mean, anybody can go buy a piece of property, but to lease it out and be a landlord is a whole nother ball game. And so it's not something that they're doing day in and day out. We are. And so allow us to come in.
Absolutely.
And
hire the professionals.
And
don't go on to lease.com or any chat GPT. I know some of these search engines, these AI properties, they're very helpful.
Sure.
But, chat GPT is not smart.
And the nuances of things that can happen and that do happen.
Absolutely. Because remember how I said the laws are consistently changing? After the epidemic, they had made this law law that you can no longer just give a tenant 15 days notice. You have to give them 30 days.
Yeah.
And I went on to ChatGPT to test it, and it wasn't updated.
Oh,
it said it was
wow.
still there, but that has been lifted. So you can actually give your tenant 30 days notice and 15 days notice. So, when things and laws are changing, test this AI. It's not going to keep up with it until you teach it.
Right,
and
exactly.
Why teach an AI where you can teach yourself?
Exactly.
So it's just not my recommendation, but I do it well. I love my industry. It's just the hard moments. That lease is the foundation. Like I said, it's artistic. Don't shoot yourself. Don't short yourself. What could happen?
Exactly.
That lease has everything that could happen. You know, something happens with the home, something happens with the tenants. It outlines the security deposit. It outlines everything that the tenant's responsible for, changing AC filters and things like that. So, and you have to have it in writing. If we're document driven, why is that the one of the things that you're not going to,
not have
really
a solid lease?
Solid at first.
Yeah.
Build your foundation, find your tenant after that.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your final word of wisdom to the tenants and landlords out there?
The key to success is helping others to be successful.
Yeah.
And we're only going to do that if we can help our owners understand that they are the ones who have to start this first. They create a Bible about their property, and it needs to be followed. It needs to be respected. It needs to be heard, and it needs to be understood. So I hope people start doing that to be successful and not put themselves in a situation that can be very costly later on down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm here to do that. I don't just manage. I counsel tenants. I get lots of calls. Tenants haven't gotten their security deposit back. Owners upset the way tenants have left homes, and they do this on their own. If I'm getting calls from those people and they want me to help them, they could have prevented this by getting a good lease and
place.
Hiring the professionals to manage their home. So
Let
that's the best thing I can do. Help people
Yeah.
be successful, and that lease is the foundation.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks, Rachel. I appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a great opportunity to be here with you, and I'm excited about the management industry and where we're going. Absolutely. These are the core things about management, and I hope that we can continue to do this and educate people.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Rachel, for being here today. And it's just, you can tell her passion for what she does, and her amount of knowledge is so incredible. So I'm excited to be working with her and learning from her as I grow my property management portfolio as well. Again, I'm Nathan Montgomery. I want to thank you for listening to Hashtag Let's Chat. And I look forward to seeing you every month with a new episode in this new season 4 of Hashtag Let's Chat. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can reach me on social media on Instagram at Realtor Nathan M. You can also call me at 321-603-9710. I'd love to help you buy, sell, invest, property management, whatever your real estate needs may be. I am here to help, and all of us here at RLL are here to help. So thank you once again. Have a great month, everybody. We'll see you next month.